Okay, we're on our way to the wilderness spot to start a friction fire. First thing you're gonna need, spindle, nice and straight. I took some time to have these already made to try to speed this video up. Fireboard, a handhold, which we're gonna get on site, and a bow. The friction fire that I'm gonna be creating is a bow drill. I will get into hand drill on a future video, but for today we're going to focus on the bow drill. The spindle needs to be 6 to 8 inches long. I like to do it from pinky to thumb. Nice, and the straighter the better. It's going to run really smooth if you have it nice and straight. The most important part to building a proper friction fire is the fire itself. The art of building a fire is truly an art form, and a lot of people take that for granted. If you take that for granted, you're going to spend a lot of nights cold. The art to building a correct teepee fire or a waffle cake fire is very, very important. You should start out with the smallest twigs possible and then lace a layer of tinder over that. Gradually work your way up in size of twigs, lace another layer of tinder, gradually work your way up some more tinder until you get to thumb-sized wood and put some tinder over that. That way, all of your layers of wood have something highly combustible in between them. And we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Okay, the next thing that we need to do in creating a bow drill fire is selecting the bow. Some people like bows with a little flex. I like mine to be rigid. So what I do is I look for a rigid stick with a curve in it. It's about 2.5 feet long. I like mine kind of long because as I'm moving the bow, you get more time for the spindle to spin with the longer the bow. So I've found this fallen, appears to be maybe possibly black walnut, but anyway, the important thing is I found, if you'll come over here and look at this curve in this stick here, I found a nice curved stick here. Take your wilderness knife, not a little pocket knife, and start using it like an axe. So you know what? Come zoom in on this. You see this little crook right here? This little crook? I'm going to use that to wrap my string around. So I'm going to quit cutting here. I'm actually going to cut past that, and that's going to make a nice little area for me to wrap the string. The importance of a nice, sharp, big knife, not a little dinky thing, is very important because you can use it like an axe. Okay, I'll cut right here. It's going to take me like another minute, but I don't want to bore you guys with that. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I've got the bow. Only took like a minute, like I said. But you know, from the tips of your finger past your shoulder a little bit, like I said, the longer the better. You get more spin on the spindle. But and it's curved, so your string is going to run right through here unobstructed by the wood. So this is what you want. I've got a nice little crook right here where I can loop tie a loop around that, and I'll just carve another one in the end down here, and we'll get to that in a little bit. See ya. All right, we're back. One of the most important things in friction fire is tinder. You've got to have a lot of it. It's got to be dry. It's got to be very fibrous, and it's got to hold together in a ball like a bird's nest. Leaves can be used. I've done it myself. I was taught by a guy on how to use leaves as tinder. They don't hold together well. It's very, very difficult to use leaves. You got to pound them up with a rock, get them really, really fine. Put the fine stuff in the middle of a big ball of leaves. It's very difficult. But anyway, we're going to go to the good tinder, the fibrous big bird's nest style tinder. This tree right here is eastern red cedar. If you would pan up, and you can catch some of it right here as well. This is what the tree looks like. It smells very good. It's very fragrant. Excuse the car coming by. But eastern red cedar, don't ask me why they call it that, because it's a juniper, but that's what it is, eastern red cedar, and it makes great tinder. The bark, if you'll see this bark, you can peel it off. And sometimes it comes off in huge strips, like 6 feet long. But this tree, dig your fingernails into it and peel off as much of it as you can. And you're going to need a lot of this. And I also want to point out, this isn't hurting the tree either. All this bark that I'm peeling off is dead. So peel off this. You want to zoom in on this fibrous stuff right here? Come up here and zoom in on the fibrous. You got that? Okay. This is the stuff we're after. It's a fibrous tinder bundle. Oh, there we go. Here's some good peels of it. Look around all sides of the tree. And then there's another one over here. Same tree. We're going to take this stuff and rip it, shred it till you get nicely fine fibers that you can make a nice little bird's nest out of. So there you go. There's lots of different things that you can use for tinder. This is the best in my area throughout the eastern United States, eastern red cedar. Highly recommended. There's additives that you can add to it, such as cattail. The bushy heads off the cattail can be added to this. Bagworms, if any of you know what bagworms are, they're the little silky, they build the nests in the trees and they'll eventually kill the tree off. So you're doing a tree a favor by burning a bagworm nest. But you can pull that down and throw a bunch of leaves in that and use bagworm nests as tinder as well. But anyway, this is the eastern red cedar. That's what we're going to use for tinder for our bow drill fire. And if you guys excuse me for 2-3 minutes, I'll be back. All right, everyone, we're back. Bow drill fire. I have in front of me all the materials you will need to build a fire correctly. If you would zoom in on these materials, we have our spindle. I've got several different. Fireboard, handhold, our bow. We don't have the string on it, but everyone usually always has a shoestring or a bootstring. That's what I use 95% of the time. We'll get into cordage out of native materials in another video, but for this video, to keep it simple, we're going to use a shoestring or boot string because everyone's got one in a survival situation. I've heard of people using this bottom piece of your shirt. If you just cut it right above that stitch all the way around, that makes a good cord to do a bow drill fire with. But we got our spindles, we got our fireboard, we got our handhold, we've got our bow. Notice I have 3 stacks of wood. You're going to want to separate your wood in different sizes, starting with your smallest, your medium size, and your larger sized. And then we've got 2 different types of tinder here. This is dried leaves. This is our bird's nest, eastern red cedar bark. Noticed how the eastern red cedar holds together in a ball, and notice how the dry leaves fall apart. You can exclusively start a fire with dry leaves, but yet again, that's another video that I'll get into in the future. Right now, everyone should focus on having a soft ball size of tinder that sticks together in a ball like a bird's nest. I'm going to use this to lace in to my teepee fire in my pancakes. So the first style we're going to do is a pancake style fire, and I want to get 2 of my big sticks here. Let's just go with these 2. And I'm going to lay those out right here like this. Put these up here. You might want to come zoom in on what I'm doing here, get a close up. Okay. You're going to take your small stuff and you're going to lay it across it like this, crisscross. This is what I call a pancake or a waffle cake fire. Lay it across. If one's not long enough to make it across like this, you can diagonal it across the existing ones that you have there. Okay, you want it to be pretty tight, not real gappy. Okay, now after you do that, you take some of your tinder and lace it over that layer. You can take your cedar bark and lace it in as well. Okay, as soon as you get this layer done, start with some more. Okay, after you get your tinder laced in your first layer, you're going to want to take more little sticks, put it over the tinder to help hold it in place. Now you're going to want to take some of your medium-sized sticks and put them in there too. Just keep doing the same thing over and over, more sticks. More tinder. And more sticks, it's okay. Okay. This is a waffle cake fire building method. Whenever, okay, this is the waffle cake fire. And whenever I get the coal going from the friction fire and the tinder bundle lit, I can pick this up like so by the two big large sticks and lay it down on the tinder bundle. That's the waffle cake method. The next method is going to be a teepee. On your teepee fire, you're going to want to I like to jab them into the ground if I can. And if you have a stick that has a little crook in it or a Y, you can put them together like that. But what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to make a little doorway on the front of the teepee where we'll put our tinder bundle. Okay. Make a tripod. As soon as you get your tripod, gently start laying little sticks around the teepee. Now remember, a lot of people don't have the patience to do this, but this is the most important part. The art of building the proper teepee fire or waffle cake fire is very, very important. Continue to put your little sticks around the teepee. If you notice, all the while I'm not putting any in the front here. I'm leaving it open. That's the door to the teepee. When it starts standing up on its own, you can kind of start speeding up the process. By leaning them on there. Sticks with dried leaves on them work really good for this. You can lay them up and it helps put tinder into your teepee fire. Okay, now we'll take some of our cedar bark tinder and we will put it at different locations in the teepee fire. You might be able to cram a few leaves in there. Just anything to make this thing really combust. Okay. More sticks on top of the tinder. Go to our, gradually start working our way up in size on our sticks. So now we're past the kindling and we're moving on to our medium size stuff. By the way, it's July the 7th. Really don't need a fire at this time of the year.
Woohoo!
But whatever. All for you guys. Suffer for the good of everyone.
sticks to hold the tinder in and start moving up to our large wood. That should be good for now. Okay, now let's get to the fun stuff. And I think exactly what I just said right there, the fun stuff. I think a lot of people, that's why they're no good at doing this, because they want to bypass that and get to the friction fire, which is the fun part. So you're gonna need your knife, your fireboard, and your spindle, and your shoelace or bootlace. Okay. I'm gonna tie a loop on one side. That loop is going to go over this crook, and then this. Notice I cut some notches in the wood here. Usually I've got more string and I can just wrap it around there and then wrap it around itself, but I'm going to have to undress my other shoe, which brings me to another point. Friction fires are easier to start barefooted. Nice. I got black lint all over my feet, so I don't have a disease, people. That's just black lint from my socks. Try to clean myself up here with ghost white feet. So I'm just gonna splice. I'm gonna add string here, and I'm just gonna do my Navy square knot. I learned whenever I was in the Navy, because I'm awesome at doing knots. There we go. That's all I needed to do. So go around this notch like this, and then just start wrapping the string on itself. Take your finger, run it under itself again, run it under itself again. Bojo. Okay. Come down here. You're going to take the spindle, put it in the middle, pull up, take these two fingers, pull down, and then turn. So it's wrapped around it, just like that. The next thing you're going to need is your handhold. Now you want I prefer stone handholds, but I like to use if I don't have stone, a hardwood. You want your handhold to be a harder wood than your spindle and your fireboard. One time I spent some time in northern Idaho, right outside of Missoula, Montana, and the only thing available was, there were no hardwoods. It was all cedar. And I did start a friction fire with a cedar handhold. So it can be done, but I prefer to use hardwoods. Okay, you want to take your knife and dig a little indentation in the wood right here like this. Next thing we're going to do is burn that indentation so our spindle and our fireboard are really tight and they fit together really well. Nice, level, long strokes. A little more, it's not deep enough. Okay. Notice the tip of the spindle is very black. My string started loosening up on me. That's why I like to make this one end on this really adjustable, because I can stop and tighten it back up. So retighten here, wrap it around itself, and while you are, if it's loosening on you while you're trying to crank out a fire, you can take your hand and grab further up, and a lot of times that'll tighten it enough to get the fire going. Okay, I got to go over technique. This video is going to be real long, and I apologize, but you guys have got to know technique. The reason it's easier to start a friction fire with barefoot is because your foot can wrap around the fireboard, whereas with a shoe it can't. You want to take your hand and make an L right here with your wrist and your thumb. That part goes against your shin and locks right there. You got to be stable. Your hand can't be out here trying to balance this. It's not going to work like that. You got to be stable so it locks against your shin, just like that. Your strokes with the bow drill are, you don't want the tip slapping, and you don't want to be doing all this. You want to be very level and even strokes, long strokes. Okay. One way to explain it is, if you've ever seen the Karate Guy break boards, they do that thing where they get their chi before they break the board. Doing a friction fire is very much like that. I like to collect my chi before I start, if that's what you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. I like to get totally mentally focused, say a prayer, whatever you have to do to get the fire. It works, trust me. Okay, so we've got our hole burned out here. The next thing we need to do is cut a notch to let all of that dust collect, and it gives it a collection point and a place to where it can get hot. So we're gonna create a notch here. If you want to get close up, this is very important. I like to attack the corners. Corners are easier to get a cut started. And earlier when I mentioned softwoods for your fireboard and spindle, and hardwoods for your handhold, notice how soft this wood is. The softer it is, the easier the friction fire is going to be. Now that's not to say, I have seen guys, I had a good friend that he could start a fire with anything. Oak, I think I saw him do it with hickory, I saw him do it with bodark. He made it a point to start a fire with any wood because he had a very good theory. You may not have the opportunity to have softwoods. So he wanted to know how to get a friction fire started with everything. The guy could snap his fingers and get fire. He was the one that actually taught me how to make leaf tinder work. So he was really good. Now, you will notice I did a pretty sloppy job at cutting this notch, everyone. Hopefully it's not going to ruin our fire, but the notch will stop just short of the center of the hole. You want your notch to stop just short of that, and I guess it's roughly maybe an eighth the width of the hole. And what happens is when this spindle spins on here, it creates dust. You can see some of it collected there just from doing that. If you look at the notch, you can see the black stuff in the notch. That dust will collect in here and pile up. And when it piles up, it gets hot and turns into a little coal. And we'll put that little coal in our tinder bundle and blow it into flame. So here we go. I want you to get a close-up of the powder turning into a coal. Nice and smooth. Take your time. So you can see, stay down there. So you can see we have a nice size, fat, lumpy coal. A lot of people when they're first learning, they freak out at this point, spaz out, and end up putting that out. Just catch your breath, relax, let that burn. That'll burn for a long time. Let it burn and get big. It'll make your fire starting easier. One of the thing, a lot of people like to go real fast on their bow, thinking that creates more heat. Which, yes, speed can create heat, but the way I always figured is you end up tiring out, and sometimes it takes a really long time to crank one out. Remember this, that time, if you just pace yourself, the time equals more heat too. The longer you sit there and rub on it, the hotter it'll get. So take your knife, put it in the notch, pull the fireboard up, take your tinder bundle, get a nice hairy spot in the tinder bundle and make an indention just like that with your finger. That's why it's called the bird's nest. Look how big that coal is now. Big old huge coal. Ow. Put it on your knife. Drop it in there. Gently squeeze the bundle around it. Don't blow hard. The bigger it grows, the harder you can blow on it. Okay, I'm going to take this, I'm going to lay it down right here. Now I'm going to take my waffle cake. Blow this into flame some more. Now, I want to save some of my tinder for the teepee fire over there. So you don't want to do this in the wilderness. I'm willing to take this off, which that's what you don't want to do. You want to leave it there and make sure you have fire. But if you see, it's going pretty well by itself. I'm going to put this out. And I will demonstrate the teepee. I think the waffle cake fires are my favorite. That's just awesome. But the teepee fire is pretty effective too. So let's take the waffle fire over here to our primitive wilderness survival fire pit. See? Our primitive wilderness survival fire pit. It goes like that. I made it out of a mine that I dug. Okay. Now, I think I have enough for one more fire in there. Let's try it out. I'm going to retighten my string just to make sure everything's tight enough. Okay, twist your spindle in, come down here. Think we've got it. Catch my breath. Let that coal burn. This time it's a lot smaller coal. I didn't have much fireboard left to work with. Make an indention. Pick up the coal. Drop it in. Gently cradle it. Trade with you here. Get over here to the teepee. Notice the doorway on the teepee fire here. Uh-oh. No. Seriously? Okay, we won't let that happen again. Arr. that's just one of those mistakes right there. So you see how I had to move? One of those mistakes that could kill you in a wilderness survival situation. My fireboard just broke. Looks like I was still able to come up with a coal with a broken fireboard. That's amazing. Come look. See how that part of the fireboard broke away right there? Okay. Now, this time, I will get over by the teepee. You hear how fast that wood's catching? Well, I spoke too soon. The teepee fire method. The waffle cake seemed a lot more efficient, but whatever you prefer, just remember to take your time and build your, whether it be waffle cake or teepee, really well, and you'll be successful at fishing fire. That's going to conclude the bow drill. Please remember to like and subscribe, and the next video will possibly be the hand drill. Have a nice day. One thing I'd like to point out is the proper teepee fire. Look, no smoke, all flame. That's a good fire. Produces the most heat, the most light. You don't want huge logs on there making the thing smolder. You can put big logs on it after it's been going for a while. That is a proper teepee fire right there. It's a proper fire, period. All flame, no smoke.